Verse 18, Paul prays, that you may know what is a hope to which he has called you. Now, when we talk about hope, obviously the world speaks about hope and wishful thinking, in terms of wishful thinking, because they don't know the future, right? But biblical hope, you understand, is life-changing certainty about the future, though that future is unseen. I love what Paul Tripp says about hope. He says, it's a confident expectation of a guaranteed result. A confident expectation of a guaranteed result. See, Paul knows that how you and I live the Christian life and how we serve in the present is in large measure determined by how we think about the future that we've been called to. And so, he speaks to us about having our eyes made very clear, our vision made clear about this hopeful certainty about all the things that God has promised for us, because that's going to shape and transform the way we live and serve right now. I think of Eugene Lang. Eugene Lang was a millionaire, and years ago he was asked to speak to a class of 59 sixth graders in East Harlem, New York. And his task was to go in there and convince these mostly Puerto Rican and African American students, who have this tendency of dropping out of school. His job was to go and convince them to stay in school. And he looked at his speech, he looked at the kids, and he just crumbled up his speech. He says, "This is no good." And he just made one statement to them: "Stay in school, and I'll help pay your college tuition for every one of you." Boy, I wish you were here now. And at that moment, the lives of these students changed. For the first time, they had hope, right? But in the sense of a certainty about their future. See? Not based on themselves, not based on what they possess, not based on what they imagined, but based on what someone else possessed, what someone else had accomplished, and what somebody else would give them. One of the students said, "I had something to look forward to, something waiting for me." You know what's interesting? If you were to look that up, nearly 90% of that class went on to graduate from high school. You see, and we have someone greater than Eugene Lang who says, "Let me give you hope, guaranteed certainty about the future." Right? We have Jehovah Jireh, the one who owns all things, the one who has given to us the riches of His grace freely, the one who has accomplished all things for us sinners. This is the God who calls us to take a step behind Him, and the step with Him. He says, "Trust me." The one who owns all things and gives us all things. And notice the Apostle Paul joins his hope with calling. But notice, it's not the hope of your calling, but as a New American Standard Bible translates, that you may know what is the hope of His calling. His calling. You see, when you put those two things together, the hope and His calling, you understand. Now you understand why it's guaranteed. Because it's His doing. It's not your doing. It's not your performance. It's not your activity, but it is His finished work in His Son, Jesus Christ. It's rooted in what Jesus has accomplished. That's what gives everything else its guarantee. That's what makes the future certain, because it's rooted in Jesus. And for that to fail, Jesus would have to fail. And that's not going to happen. You see. And so when you and I are challenged and we have this call, it says, "Hey, from the church, let's take a step of faith. Let's become risk takers for the kingdom's advances." Boy, the only way that you would do that is say, "Well, I have to be sure about my future. I got to be sure about this calling." And God says, it is guaranteed. This calling that we have from God is a calling that is guaranteed. And it even says that our resurrection, when we die, we will be resurrected in an incorruptible body. He has called us and guarantees that we will appear with Christ in glory. He has called you and me and guaranteed that we will share in the new heavens and the new earth. He has called us and guaranteed there'll be no more pain and no more sorrow and no more tears. He will wipe it all away, and everything that is broken will be made whole. All that is twisted will be made straight, so that we finally will have rest and satisfaction and eternal joy with our God. That is guaranteed. What more do you want to take a step of faith? Gosh, I wish I remembered this every day of my life. You see, it's not dependent on you. It's not even dependent on your faith, is it? But on the accomplished work of Jesus. And see, when the eyes of our heart are fixed on this, when we see this more clearly, it deals with the issues of our heart. Because the moment you challenge somebody to be a risk taker, all of a sudden we get our defenses up, our excuses. I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too cold, I'm too hot, I'm whatever it might be. I don't have enough money, I don't have time. It deals with our anxieties about the future. It deals with our craving for comfort, our craving for security and convenience. And believe me, we all want it. But what if the greatest satisfaction is yet to come? Oh. Yeah, then, when I finally see, when my eyes are open and the eyes of faith, I see that there's an eternal weight of glory that's beyond all comparison. Oh God, why am I so slow to take a step of faith for you?